Today, I'm replacing a heater core. Not a very fun job, but surprisingly, because I'm working on this 1995 GMC Suburban, it's gonna be pretty easy. A heater core is like a secondary mini radiator. The same hot coolant that's used by your water pump to keep the engine cool through the main radiator is pumped through this smaller heater core. This heater core is usually located inside the cab, underneath or inside the dash somewhere. I already have the interior of my truck somewhat taken apart due to a previous project. My subscribers will know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'll link that video right up here. But if we take a close look here under the dash, we can see this black box here that houses the heater core. I do already have all the screws removed and the panel separated, so as I pull this panel down, it will reveal the heater core. The panel is now removed and you can see the original heater core. The reason why I'm replacing this heater core is, well, number one, it's original to the truck. I believe in plenty of preventative maintenance. I don't want this heater core to go on me during an important trip. And there's number two, the fact that I've been chasing down a leak and I had no idea where it was coming from. Some of my viewers suggested because of the orange color of the fluid that it could be the heater core leaking. So I took that advice and checked the heater core. And what I found was, well, this heater core looks to be in beautiful condition. I don't see any leaks anywhere. And to be honest, it doesn't look like it needs to be changed at all. The only instance I found of anything that looked even remotely suspicious was right about here, where it looks like maybe at one point there may have been coolant running about here. But I feel like even that's a bit of a stretch. If I take a look at the inside of this panel that I removed, there is no indication of any sort of leak whatsoever, and this is where I would see it. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. This heater core does not need to be changed, but we're gonna do it anyway. Looking at the other side of the firewall, however, does reveal something a little different. If I go ahead and take a swipe underneath this heater hose, you can see that my fingers are actually wet. Now, I don't think this is the fault of the actual heater core so much as it's probably just a failing hose clamp or possibly even a cracked hose. Either way, we're going to be swapping out all of this stuff. In order to remove this heater core, there is only one screw. And here you can see that screw that secures this one clamp. The next step is going to be to remove these two heater hoses from inside of the engine compartment. I'm going to remove the clamp from back where the heater hose connects to these routing tubes. I do have a couple of drain buckets in place, so hopefully there won't be much, and if there is, hopefully I'll catch it all. This is the original heater hose, so it is pretty much glued onto this tube here, so I had to get a screwdriver. I'm gonna pull this clamp back a little farther here. Okay, I just felt it loosen up. Now let's take it off and see what comes out. All right, right in the catch bucket, no big deal. And by doing it this way, I'm actually draining out a lot of that heater core. So this should take care of the bulk of the mess. You can see this line comes directly off of the heater core. I already drained this catch bucket once, and by pressing these tubes down as far as I could press them, I was able to get a little more coolant to come out. As you can imagine, this will help when I remove the heater core from inside the cab here from getting very much, if any at all, coolant inside. I want to try to keep the cab here coolant free. I hate that smell, and I don't want to think that there is residual coolant around. I just finished removing the two heater hoses off of the heater core. And let me tell you, what I found was surprising. Just look at the condition of both of those ends of the heater core. They are in extremely bad shape. Now that the heater hoses are removed from the actual heater core, the only thing left to do is remove this screw that's holding the clamp. And with that screw loose and the clamp removed, this heater core will just fall out. And there it is, the original factory heater core from 1995. The new heater core is a GM original equipment replacement, and it literally looks identical. All these years later, and they look like they are made exactly the same. But if we take a peek at the end here on the original core, you can see it is in terrible condition. This corrosion was actually causing a small leak in the seal of the heater hose. And I suspect that that's why every once in a blue moon, I would randomly smell some coolant inside the cab. I would always check for a leak, never found one, and never knew why I could smell coolant. Well, now I do. But as they say, out with the old and in with the new, and you can see here, our new core is perfect. This new core mated with some new heater hose is not going to leak at all. So the only thing to do now is to get this thing installed. And the new heater core is installed exactly the same way that the old heater core came out. You simply slide the two lines through the holes in the firewall and then gingerly press up into place the rest of the heater core. You'll then only have to reattach this clamp. With the new heater core completely installed, all I have to do now is install a set of new heater hoses. And I've already cut these two to length. Here I have the smaller of the two, the 5/8 hose, and I'll just push it right on to that heater core, and that one is now fully seated. You can also see that this new heater core actually has a stop for the hose, something that the original one didn't have. And for the larger 3/4 hose, I am going to use a different style of hose clamp, and this is simply because the one that I did have there was obviously failing, no longer able to keep a tight seal, and so I decided to swap that one out for this more standard style screw type hose clamp. With everything completed and both heater hoses routed and clamped where they need to be, and with the heater core fully installed and clamped down where it needs to be, the only thing left to do is to start it up and make sure there's no leaks. So here goes nothing. I can feel that there's hot coolant flowing through this heater core because it is extremely hot right now. And we have no leaks, which is awesome. No leaks up on the top here either. And there's also no leaks down here by the firewall. Well, for the heater core, we are officially leak-free. It is a brand new heater core, brand new heater hoses. I let it run for a while and cool down and checked for any leaks, and there is none. So I then replaced this heater core cover, which was just fitting into place, and a couple of screws. So as for the water that I was finding inside my cab, for you subscribers, I still don't know what the source of that was. I don't think it was coolant, even though the color of it looked orange. There is a slight possibility that it could have been, but I didn't see any indication of coolant leaking inside the cab other than the fact that that liquid looked orange like Dexcool. Personally, I think it looked orange just because it went through the carpet, which probably had Coke and coffee and who knows what mixed in with that. It didn't smell like antifreeze or even feel like antifreeze. It just felt like regular water. So for now, I'm gonna leave this tore up until we get some rain, which I suspect we should be getting in the next couple of days. If I can drive this thing with no leaks and have it out in the rain with no leaks, then I don't know what the heck the deal is. Maybe someone left the window down. Well, that'll do it for this video. You can see in this case, the heater core replacement was very simple. Being that this is an older vehicle and a full-size vehicle, it was very easy for me to access and remove that heater core. But I do suspect that on newer vehicles that are much smaller, it is probably a much more difficult job. I replaced that heater core just out of typical routine preventative maintenance and actually ended up finding that it did need to be replaced. That connection there between that larger 3/4 inch hose and the heater core was rotting. And by taking a swipe from underneath that hose, I could see that there was coolant leaking out of there. It wasn't bad, but you never know when something like that blows up on you. And it seems to always happen when you're out on a road trip. So I am very happy that not only was this job a success, it actually needed to be done. That just reiterates that point of preventative maintenance. It's not always about the one single thing you're changing out. Sometimes, like what we saw here today, it may reveal something bigger or something that needed to be dealt with and you didn't know. So make sure you get out there, open your hood, and just listen and look. Maybe you'll hear something weird. Maybe you'll see a broken vacuum hose or something simple that needs to be dealt with. Make sure you're changing your oil per the manufacturer's recommendations, and make sure you get yourself a tune-up if you haven't done it in the last 60,000 miles. This sort of preventative maintenance will keep you safer on the road and perhaps keep you from breaking down and having to call a tow truck and dealing with that. That is exactly why I take so much time in making sure that my vehicles are up to date in their maintenance. I want to make sure that there's no chance of me breaking down or my wife breaking down when she's out driving the vehicles by herself. So I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, don't forget to smash that thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing. My name is Jimmy, the channel is One Road, and I will see you in the next one.